Okay, so let me give you some information about your final exam before we start our class today. So your final exam will be exactly in the same format. Okay, so when you look at your midterm questions, okay, question 1, okay, in the midterm, I have solved exactly the same question, okay, in the class. I just changed the numbers. Moreover, I made the question easier, okay, so I didn't ask you the more difficult part. Question 2, so it was almost asked in the assignments. Okay, question 3, I solved some parts of that question in the class, and some parts are coming from the assignments. So this should basically show you the way how you should work for your final exam. Okay, whatever I will ask in your final exam will be something that you have already seen before. Okay, so I hope so you will be better prepared for the final exam, and you will get better results in the final exam. Okay, if you don't have any question, I will start the new chapter. Final will be somewhat cumulative, okay, but I will tell you so which chapters that I will not be asking questions. Okay, so I will give more weight on the chapters that we have worked on after the midterm exam. Kümülatif olacak, fakat sormayacağım bazı chapter'ları size söyleyeceğim. Ağırlık midterm'den sonraki konularda olacak. Tarihinin tam olarak ne zaman olduğunu size e-mail ile atmıştım. Zaten official olarak verilen tarih olacak. Şu anda benim de aklımda yok. Eğer hatırlayan birisi varsa buraya yazarsa arkadaşlarınız da görebilir. Okay, so it is August 15. Okay, thank you guys. So let's start our new chapter. Okay, so have you watched the videos that I have uploaded to YouTube and Google Drive? Okay, so then let me just give you some summary of what I have recorded. Okay, so that part is very related to what we will be doing today. Okay, and in fact, so what I have done is basically I have started the production. Okay, so let me share my screen and I will go from there. And if you have any question, okay, so do not hesitate to ask me. Okay. Okay, so basically, so these two chapters, okay, chapter 6 and chapter 7, okay, are on production. Okay, so we are now working on the firm side. Okay, and for the production, so we define a production function where we have only two inputs here. The first input is labor, işçi. The second input is capital. So here capital can include anything, okay, that you can think of other than the labor. Okay, it can be land, it can be machine, it can be factory, whatever you can think of. Okay, it can be anything. Okay, it can be materials. Okay, it will be all captured by capital. Okay, and we have here the output mode. So the shape of the production functions will be exactly the same as the indifference course. Okay. we will be using almost all the same indifference. The type of the type of the utility functions that we have used will be the same here. Okay, so which means that we will use mean function. Okay, we will use substitute, or we will use Cobb-Douglas. Okay, mathematically, what we are doing is almost the same as for the indifference functions. Okay, so we have two different things here. Okay, so we have short run and we have long run. So this is all about the timing. Okay, short run is the period, okay, that one input is fixed, we cannot change it, and the long run is the period in which both inputs are variable. So in Turkish burada bizim iki tane inputumuz var, labor ve capital. Short run ve long run diye ikiye ayırıyoruz. Hani bu yakın zaman ve ileri zaman gibi düşünebilirsiniz. Yakın zamanda bir tane inputunuz kesinlikle değiştiremiyorsunuz. Bunu şey gibi düşünün. Sizin bir fabrikanız var, işçileriniz var. Fabrikayı hemen o anda satamıyorsunuz. Fakat işçilerden bazılarını işten çıkartabilirsiniz ya da yeni işçi alabilirsiniz. Long run'da ise her iki inputunuzu da değiştirebiliyorsunuz diye düşünüyorum. Hem işçi sayısını değiştirebiliyorsunuz hem de fabrikanızdaki işte alet edevat, işte makine sayısını değiştirebiliyorsunuz. Aradaki fark bu. So in short run, we will assume that label is variable, it can be changed. However, capital is fixed. Okay, fixed to some amount. Belirli bir düzeye fix edilmiş oluyor. This is variable. Okay, it can change. Okay, this is short run. And in the long run, so both of them are variable. We can flexibly change both of the items, both of the inputs. Okay, so we can define, okay, given the production function, we can define marginal productivity of labor, and it is basically the derivative of production function with respect to labor. Okay, marginal productivity of labor, and we can also define marginal productivity of capital, and it is the derivative of the production function with respect to capital. Okay, so we can also define average productivity of labor, average product of labor, or you can say, of course there is no derivative here, it is just taking the average. Okay, you are looking at the total number of the output divided by labor. Okay, this is average product of labor, and you can also define the average product of capital. Okay, Then we defined isoquants. So this is the LK bundles, which are giving the same amount of product. Bu size bir şey hatırlatıyor mu bu tanım? Isoquant tanımı. Is it similar to something that we have learned in the consumer choice? Not exactly the perfect substance, but it is close. It is analogous to indifference curve. Okay. So basically, what we are saying is, so we have a graph here. Okay. We have L and K on the indices. Okay. And this isoquants will be something like that. Okay. So these are for example, this is combination A, this is combination B, this is combination C. So A, B, C give the same amount of product. Okay. So we are changing to the ratio of labor and capital that we are using along this curve. Okay. But it is always giving us the same amount of product. Okay. So let's say that this is quantity level 6 and this is quantity level 8. Okay. We can draw for all the quantity levels. Okay. Bu bizim indifference curve'lerimiz gibi düşüneceksiniz. Tamam mı? Hani sizin elinizde L ve K var. Çeşitli miktarlarda labor ve capital kullanabiliyorsunuz. Bunlardan da belirli bir ürün üretmek istiyorsunuz. We have three type of isoquants. Okay. And as I said, that so they will be analogous to the indifference curves. Okay. So basically, we will be using the same shape of the indifference curves here. Okay. The first one is the fixed amount ones. Okay. So this is almost the same as the perfect complements, and the production function for this fixed amounts is minimum of L and K. Okay. So basically, in order to produce some amount of good, then you need a fixed amount of labor and a fixed amount of capital. Then if you just increase the amount of the capital, your production will not change. We have perfect substitutes. Perfect substitutes. And the production function corresponding to perfect substitutes is L plus K. So basically, you can substitute labor with K, okay, on this curve, and the amount of the production will not change. And finally, we have the smooth isoquants, okay. And the ones that we will be focusing on this class is the Cobb-Douglas form, L to alpha, K to beta, okay. And for these smooth ones, we can basically look at the slope at any point here. Okay, the slope of this isoquant at this point is basically the slope of the line, okay, which is tangent to at that point. So we call this as MRTS, okay, and it is the ratio of the negative ratio to MPL divided by MPK. Okay. So what does this reminds you? Bu neye benziyor? MRTS neye benziyor? It is almost the same as the MRS, okay? Forget about this production here, okay? I can just say that these are the indifference curves, and whenever I am looking for the slope here, the slope was equal to the MRS. Okay? So this is a very fast summary of chapter 6, okay? You need to watch the video that I have uploaded, okay, for chapter 6, okay? It's very important. So I just go over it again because so it will be all related with chapter 7. Okay? Sorunuz var mı? Burada temel olarak kafanızı karıştıran bir şey oldu mu? Yani aslında çok basit. Burada önceki konunun bir tekrarı gibi. Sadece consumption yerine production olarak düşünüyoruz. Hani bir arkadaşınız sorduydu sorular şey mi olacak diye, kümülatif mi olacak diye. Aslında matematiksel olarak ben burada production'la ilgili bir soru sorduğumda siz consumer choice'un matematiğini biliyorsanız çok rahat yapabileceksiniz. Do you have any question? No questions, thank you. Then let me start with chapter 7. Ben size sorayım. Bu long run'la short run arasındaki farkı anladınız mı? Çünkü burada da önemli olacak. Şimdi cost'lara başlayacağız. Hani production'ı yaptık. Şimdi cost'ları yapacağız. Cost of production yapacağız. The difference between long run and the short run is just the following, okay? In the short run, you can change the amount of the labor that you have, but you cannot change the capital. It is fixed. In the long run, you are more flexible. You can change the level of the capital and you can change the level of the labor at the same time. Okay. Chapter 7, let's start that. Okay. Will be about cost of production. Okay. So since our production function is only depending on the labor and capital, so we have only two costs here. Okay. Labor cost and the capital cost. Okay. So the labor cost will follow from the wage and the capital cost will follow from the rent. Okay, we will call it. Okay. Then if you just think about the following, okay, so if you have, let's denote wage with W, okay, and rent with R, okay. So if you have the labor amount is 5 and if your capital amount is 10, so what will be your cost? How can you write your cost function? Exactly. So this will be our, this is what is we are paying for. Okay. So but in this chapter, so our main objective will be, so we would like to would like to find the amount of labor and capital which will minimize producing a fixed amount of output. Okay, I will say you, okay, so I want you to produce 10 cars, okay? Then I will ask you what will be the minimum cost that you need to spend, okay? Burada en az maliyetle 10 tane ürünü nasıl üretebilirsiniz diye soracağım. Tamam. Bu aslında şuna denk gelecek. So I'm giving you the price of the goods. You have your utility function. You have your budget. How you can maximize your utility. So the utility maximization problem and the cost minimization problem, you will see in 10 minutes that they are very closely related, okay? And the math behind them will be exactly the same. İlk konuları anlamanız burada çok önemli. Tamam mı? Hani bu dersten sonra gidip utility maximization'a bir daha bakın. Bu aradaki bağlantıyı göreceksiniz zaten. Okay? So let's start with the cost. So let's start with short run. Okay, so we can divide the cost in the short run into 3 parts. Okay, the first one is the fixed cost, which is the cost, a cost that does not change with output. Okay, so if you remember our production function in the short run, we have k fixed here. Okay, so no matter what amount of output I want from you, okay, so this Q will change, okay. In order to change Q, you need to change L, okay. The only input change with the amount of output in the short run is the labor. K will be fixed here, okay. So the fixed cost in the short run is the cost of capital, okay, because it doesn't change with the amount of the output. We have variable cost, okay, and it is a cost that varies with output. Okay, so in the short run, the variable cost is the cost of labor. Okay, because in order to change the output, the only element that you can change in the short run is the labor. Short run'da siz sadece işçi sayısını değiştirebiliyorsunuz. O yüzden ürün miktarını değiştirmek için elinizdeki tek şey işçi sayısı ve bu da sizin variable cost'unuz oluyor. Fakat short run'da fabrikasındaki işte machine sayısını ya da input materyal sayısını değiştiremediğinizden dolayı o sizin fixed cost'unuz olmuş oluyor. So total cost will be fixed cost plus variable cost. Okay. So here the important thing is basically we would like to write cost function Okay, so basically I will be using CFC plus WC. Okay, cost function depending on amount of product. Ben burada cost fonksiyonunu hani işçi sayısına ya da capital sayısına bağlı olarak değil de output miktarına bağlı olarak yazmak istiyorum. Hani onu çevireceğim. Şimdi şurada tanımlamıştık yani yukarıda bu bir cost'tur. Hani burada amount, so it depends on the amount of labor and the amount of capital. What my aim is basically I would like to write the cost in terms of Q, okay, in terms of the output. And we will see how we do that, but formally, so the cost will depend on the amount of output. So the fixed cost will also depend on the amount of output, and the variable cost also depend on amount of output. Okay. But since the fixed cost does not change with the output, I can just get rid of this guy. Okay, so there is some constant here, but the variable cost is changing with the output level, and the cost is changing with the output level. Therefore. Okay, so we define marginal cost as usual. Okay, so marginal cost is the derivative of the cost function with respect to output. Okay. Burada cost için düşündüğümüz her şeyi artık output cinsinden yazmaya çalışacağız. Average fixed cost. Any guess for the average fixed cost? How can we write the average fixed cost? It is fixed cost divided by output. Exactly. And average variable cost is the variable cost divided by output. Okay. And average cost is actually the summation of average variable cost plus average fixed cost. Okay, so this is average fixed cost, and it will be cost divided by output. Okay, nothing complicated there. Okay, so we are still in the short run. Then let's try to think about how we can write this cost function. Okay, so let me give you an example, and we will try to write the cost function in terms of output. In short run, the fixed capital amount is 10. Okay, and your production function is given as L to the 0.5, K to the 0.5. Okay, so let's say that this is, just to make it simple, 25. Okay, so the wage that you are paying is $10. Okay, and the rent that you are paying is $5. Okay, what is marginal cost? Okay, so this is the question that we will try to answer. Okay, so we would like to derive the marginal cost function in the short run. So what we need to do is basically we need to first write cost function in terms of output. Okay. So what is cost here? Cost is the amount of labor times the, okay, so this is the cost, okay, the amount of labor times the wage, rent times the amount of capital. Okay. So here I already know that the amount of capital, okay, it is 25. It is fixed. It cannot be changed. Then it is R times 25. W times L. Okay. Since I want to write this cost in terms of output, okay, in order to write cost in terms of output, I need to write L in terms of output. Okay, so somehow I need to use this information given here. Okay, this information given here, and I would like to write L in terms of the output level. How can I do that? Okay, so remember this is okay. Nasıl yazabilirim bunu? It is just one simple mathematical operation. Yes, we can find it from the production function. Okay, how can we find it from the production function? Let's do it together. Okay, so our production function is given as L to the 0.5, K bar to the 0.5 is equal to Q. I know in the short run K is fixed. Okay, L 0.5 times 25 0.5 is equal to Q. So what I want to do is basically I want to leave L alone. Okay, burada labor'ı yalnız bırakmak istiyorum ki Q cinsinden yazabileyim. Output cinsinden yazabileyim. L 0.5, this will be 5. Okay, I'm dividing the Q with 5. Okay, so I'm almost done here. I want to leave L alone here. Then I take the square of both sides. 2 square divided by 25. Okay, so this is how I write labor in terms of output. Okay, so if I say that I want you to produce 5 units of output, then you will say that, okay, so in order to produce 5 units of output, I need 1 labor. Okay, and I just plug in the values here. Okay, instead of then the cost in terms of output will be W times Q square divided by 25 R times 25. Okay, this is my cost function. As you can see here, there is no labor, there is no capital here. Everything is in terms of quantity. I know the values of W and R. Okay, so if I just plug in those values, 10 Q squared divided by 25 plus 5 times 25 is 125. Okay, so I ask you to find the marginal cost. Then you just take the derivative of the cost function with respect to quantity. It will be 2 times 10 25 Q, which is 4 over 5. Bir sorunuz var mı burada? Is it clear? Bir soru yok. Bakın burada dikkatli olmanız gereken şey, ben size cost'la ilgili bir şey sorduğumda, long run ya da short run fark etmez, her şeyi Q cinsinden yazmak istiyoruz. Tamam mı? Her şeyi Q cinsinden yazmak istediğimizden dolayı biz burada normalde cost'umuzun ne olduğunu biliyoruz. Bizim bir labor cost'umuz var, bir de capital cost'umuz var. Labor cost zaten kullandığın labor times wage'tir. Capital cost'ta kullandığın capital times rent'tir. Ama ben burada labor'ı ve K'yi Q cinsinden yazmak istiyorum. Short run'da biraz daha kolay işler. Çünkü K fixed, K'yi Q cinsinden yazmama gerek yok. Sadece L'i Q cinsinden yazmam gerekiyor. Onu da yazabileceğim tek yer bu production fonksiyonu kullanmak. Production fonksiyonunda da L'yi yalnız bırakmaya çalışıyor. So I know that the cost is composed of the labor cost and the capital cost. Okay, but I want to write L and K in terms of quantity. So in the short run, it is easier because K is fixed here. Okay, I don't need to write it in terms of quantity. It's always a fixed number. The one left is basically writing the labor in terms of quantity. And the equation that I will use to do that is basically the production function. Okay, so then I'm just doing the math here. Okay, so I'm just trying to leave L alone, okay, and I want to write L in terms of quantity. After that, I just plug in those values. Okay, nothing that fancy or smart. Good. Sorunuz yoksa long run'a başlayacağız. Excellent. So the long run. Okay. So remember the long run production function. And in the long run, nothing is fixed. Therefore, there is no fixed cost. In the long run, cost is equal to the variable cost. Okay? So there will be nothing fixed in the long run. Okay? We will define a line here, which is called the ISO cost line. Okay. So wherever you are seeing ISO, okay, you need to think that so it needs to give the same amount of something. Okay. Here, ISO cost line will be the combinations of the labor and capital, which require the same total expenditure. Okay. ISO cost line summarizes all combinations inputs and outputs that require the same total expenditure. Bu neyi hatırlatıyor size? If you think about the consumer choice, so does this ISO cost line remind you something? Hadi düşünelim burada. It's the exact analogous to the budget line. Okay. So what was the budget line? It is P1 x1 plus P2 x2 is equal to the income level. Okay, so this is basically the summary. This is the combinations which you need the same amount of income, okay, to afford. Here we will be basically fixing some amount of cost. Okay, so let's say this is expenditure level, and we are looking for the combination of labor and capital. I know the price of labor is wage. Okay, the price of capital is rent, and this is the level of the expenditure that I am looking for. Okay, so if we would like to draw them on the graph, okay, they will be straight lines here. Okay, so for example, this is either cost for $100. This is the either cost for $50. This is either cost for 25, and it goes like. Okay, so this is labor, and this is capital. Okay, so let me ask you a question here. So what is the slope of this line? Exactly. Okay, the slope of the line is minus W over R. How can you think about that? Okay, so this is the price of the labor, okay, and this is the R is the price of the capital, and W is the price of the labor, and this is actually the slope of the budget line. Nothing different from the consumer choice. Okay, and let's think about the following. Okay, suppose you have Cobb-Douglas production function. Okay, and let's say that it is like this: K to the 0.5, L to the 0.5. Okay, so the isoquants for Cobb-Douglas production function will be like this smooth. Okay, so let's say that this is the output level for 100. Okay, so in order to not to mix the problem, okay, so let's say that I just want to focus on the output level for 100. Okay, and you have, suppose that, okay, so for simplicity, so this is labor, this is capital. For simplicity, that W is equal to R. Okay, so you will have this iso cost lines. Okay, so which are the 45-degree lines here. Okay, then my question is, what is the, or what are the amount of labor and capital needed to minimize the cost of producing 100 units of output. Okay. This is the question that we would like to answer here. How can we do that? Okay, so let's say this is ISO cost for $5. This is ISO cost for $10. This is $20. It goes like. Ben burada product kostumu 100 tane ürün üretmenin kostunu minimumda tutacak labor ve capital kombinasyonunu nasıl bulabilir? Nasıl bulabilirim? Similar to the inference curves. Yes, exactly. So I will forget about the production. Okay, this just looks like the consumer choice. Okay, and what I was doing is basically I was trying to find the ISO cost line, so which is tangent to ISO quant. Okay, at one point. Okay, so I'm interested in this point. Şimdi ben burada ne yapmaya çalışıyorum? Ben illaki bu more ISO quant üzerinde olmak zorundayım. Çünkü ben 100 tane ürün üretmek istiyorum. Since I want to produce 10 units of output, I will be on this purple curve. Okay? But I want to find the point on this purple curve which requires minimum level of expenditure. Okay? And this minimum level of expenditure is basically, for example, can be found by looking at the tangency between the ISO cost line and the ISO quant. So how can I, so here MRTS is equal to minus the slope of this line, okay, which is W over R. What is MRTS for this specific production function? MRTS is minus sign marginal product of labor divided by marginal product of capital. Okay, so what is marginal product of labor here? I'm taking the derivative of this production function with respect to labor, which is 0.5 times a to the 0.5 times L to the minus 0.5 divided by marginal product of labor is capital is just the same, minus sine L to the 0.5, and if I do the math, I will get the following. This is K, this is F. Okay, and the ratio of the prices, I know it is minus 1. Okay, then I plug this equation here. Okay, this should be minus 1. Then I have K is equal to F. So this is the relation between, at this point, K is equal to F. But what is the exact amount of capital and labor here? Orasını nasıl bulacağım? Exact amount'unu nasıl bulacağım? So that's the answer here. Yes, exactly. But how do I find that? Orada doğru cevabı verdin. Ama hani onu nasıl bulacağım? Exactly. Okay, so I know the following. Okay, so at that point, okay, at this point, the production, okay, KL needs to give me 100 units of output. Okay, and what I need to do is basically instead of, so now I know the relation between K and L. I will just plug it here. Okay, so this is 100. Then let's say that K to the 0.5. Instead of L, I will be writing K to the 0.5 again. Is 100. Here K is 100. Okay, and so does L. Budur. This is not different from the consumer choice. Okay, so we are using this tangency condition. Okay, and we are also using, okay, different from the consumer choice. In the consumer choice, we were given a fixed amount of income. Now we are giving a fixed amount of production. Sorunuz var mı? Any question? Yok. O zaman bugünlük bu kadar. That's all for today. Okay. I will give you some questions about this production. Okay. Today or tomorrow. I will assign them as homework for Monday. Okay. So the reason I'm giving shorter time is basically so just to make you ready for the final exam. Okay. So on Friday, so your TAs will be solving questions about the earlier chapters, and on Monday, so we will meet together. Sorunuz olursa herhangi bir konuda kafanıza takılan, tamam mı? Hani bu konularla ilgili olabilir. Hiç çekinmeden e-mail atın. Ben bir şekilde e-mail üzerinden size anlatmaya çalışırım. Eğer e-mail üzerinden anlaşılmıyorsa Zoom üzerinden bir meeting yaparız. Tamam mı? So if you have any question, please do not hesitate to send me email. And I will try to explain it through email. So if it is not apparent through email, then we can try to meet through Zoom. Bu kadar. Hepinize kolay gelsin. Görüşmek üzere pazartesi günü.